Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Comics by Art Spiegelman, a retrospective of comics, graphics, and scraps. I don't know if it's pronounced comics or comics, whichever way you want probably. But this is a very, very handsome book published by Drawn and Quarterly in 2013. It's basically the program guide to his French art gallery retrospective. If you went to that thing, there was a smaller version of this that was offered as the guide. But then Drawn and Quarterly decided to expand it and gussy it up a little and actually put it out as a book. And I'm glad they did, because this has a lot of great stuff in it. I love this cover. This was a print magazine cover he did, I don't know, back in the 90s sometime. Comics as a medium for self-expression? Oh, John, you're such a fool. I'm sorry. It's funny, and it's great. It's great graphic design. And I love how there's this page of comics on the wall, which I want to see this page. It looks great, whatever it is. And the paint squeezed out of this tube says Raw. I believe he was still editing Raw at the time. His great anthology. So guys, as you can see, humongous book. It's huge and quite fat. If you can notice here, it's got just like a fat, not cardboard, what is this, pasteboard? The covers are glued on. The front and back covers are glued on. And so it's quite substantial. And let me make sure that I'm still in frame here. This is hard to get in frame, it's so big. The end papers are, this is a sketch he did for Lead Pipe Sunday, a project he worked on. We'll see that a little later. Even his raw, crazy sketches like this, just, he really has a great sense of design. Art Spiegelman claims that he's not a very good artist. And I guess he's like, I don't know. I don't know, actually. I was going to say he's no Art Crumb, but I've seen things by him that are just as beautifully illustrative. So I don't know why he claims that. It's pretty damn good. This is from In the Shadow of No Towers. I believe this was the back cover, maybe. We see all the silhouettes of these famous comic characters tumbling downward through this gray morass. You can, if you pause this and look at it, you can recognize all these guys. This crazy cat and a yellow kid. The title page has a sketch from one of his sketchbooks, self-portrait. And this is a poster he did for the Festival International de la Bande Dessinée at Angoulême in 2012. His later art like this looks a little too computery to me. It's a little too slick. It's still very nice design. I mean, yeah. I like how he has all these Mickey Mouse and Ignatz and whatever this guy's name is. Mariscal's character, what is it, Lupin? I can't remember his name. I think that's his name. But I like how he gets all these classic comic characters in. This is edited by Tom Devlin, Jeet Heater, and Chris Oliveros. That's quite a triumvirate of great comic book guys. So the exhibition in France, it was called Comics, or Comics, whatever, however you want to pronounce it. It was part of this festival. It was like a little sub exhibit just dedicated to Art Spiegelman, his whole career. We have a contents page. This is interesting. 1974 artist statement. I'm not sure what it's from. But I like this, how he was thinking about comics as art, even back in 1974. I'm sorry, it's from the Apex Treasure of Underground Comics, 1974. He also has some quotes from Chick Young, the creator of Blondie. And some more quotes from Rudolf Topfer, probably the first comic strip artist, and Art Spiegelman. Here's a detail from It Was Yesterday, Only Today. Sorry, it was today, only yesterday. Once again, a little too slick for me. It's cute, though. I mean, he's got a nice, appealing style, even when he draws like that. This is kind of a tour de force. This was just one page in Art Forum magazine. They asked Art Spiegelman to comment on the MoMA High and Low show, which I believe came out in 1990. And the show was widely criticized for basically concentrating on guys like Roy Lichtenstein ripping off comics, rather than actually showing the original comics. His little thing here missing. He puts himself first. Art Spiegelman, that's their big sin, that they didn't have him in the show. You know, all his friends, and we see all the Raw artists, George Gross, Milt Gross, Mayakovsky, these are all the people that he felt deserved to be in here. Kenny Scharf. But it was kind of like, you know, of course they had Crazy Cat, because Crazy Cat's enshrined in culture. Since Umberto Eco and E.E. Cummings loved it, it's considered okay. And this little strip kind of talks about that conundrum. I like how this parody of Dick Tracy, he's got a two-way wrist palette on his hand. So this is pretty biting. I mean, he's really critical of this MoMA show. He was not pleased. Giant ostrich in New York City lays a big egg, but not very nourishing. And we see MoMA with its head in the ground. That's pretty scathing. Here's the little definition. Co-mix, to mix together, as in words and pictures. We have a nice self-portrait, nude self-portrait from 1999. And now we have a really nice essay by Jay Hoberman, all about Art Spiegelman. Here's a photo of him. Here's one of his New Yorker covers. Very bizarre. And then I love this, just all these little examples of Art Spiegelman's work throughout the years. I mean, going back to the early 70s. I'd never heard of these. Apparently, Art Spiegelman did at least the covers for collections of old Tijuana Bibles. This looks really fun. I would love to get that. We did a video on this one. That's a great comic he edited. One of the roughs for a wacky package. Various things. I shouldn't point out everything. We'll never get done with this video. But this is nice seeing the rough for Read Yourself Raw. Things like this are just like kind of rare, you know. So he talks about his whole career. I love this. This was from a Viper. They made a Viper t-shirt. Viper is Art Spiegelman's really foul character from the early 70s. He appeared in like 2 or 3 undergrounds, and they are just nasty comics. I mean, they would never be allowed today. They probably weren't allowed then. They're really just like Art Spiegelman, really testing the boundaries of what's possible as far as good taste. Love this little pastel of mouse. Him talking to Harvey Kurtzman, a little photo. Portrait of Jack Cole. And just a very good essay all around. So this is great. I love this kind of stuff. This is his earliest stuff when he was, I believe, maybe 13, 14. He started doing cartoons. And it's all well annotated. Tells you what everything is. I love it. He was in an anti-Castro weekly. So he made this anti-Castro cartoon. Even though I'm sure Spiegelman was probably more pro-Castro than he was Castro's enemies, you know. So 1958, I think this is one of the earliest drawings he has. This is the first comic strip he drew at age 12. So this is age 10, this Bramble Brain drawing. This is age 12. He actually drew a comic strip. And it's kind of cute and clever. It's okay. A lot better than most 12-year-olds would do. Art's very primitive, of course. So he started fanzines, humor fanzines, 1963, just like when he was 15. He did little caricatures for the local newspaper. He even had a daily strip that he worked on. Well, it never got published, but like a scout from NEA Syndicate saw his work when he was in high school and said, "Hey, you're really good. I want to give you a chance." And Spiegelman realized that he was not cut out to be like that kind of artist. You know, the daily grind, kind of hacking it out. So he went to SUNY Binghamton, the college, and he was the I believe, the editor, or at least the art director of the newspaper there. So there's lots of stuff. Like, this is pretty crude stuff, but it's also, we can see that he's going in a very trippy direction. I don't know if he's taking drugs at the time, but this could be in an underground. This is 1966. Kind of interesting. And so now we get to his full-on underground era, or at least being published professionally. This is from Wits End number 3. This was a comic strip he did for the Binghamton Pipe Dreams. That was the name of their paper, their weekly paper. And these were reprinted in Wits End. We looked at these when I looked at some Wits Ends, maybe 3 months ago. Look it up in the search engine if you're interested. They're definitely, he's getting more skillful. You can already see his graphic design sense. Kind of sharp. Like, he could have had a career in advertising on easy. He probably would have made $1 million. And now here's one of his first trips for the East Village Other. So now he's getting into the hippie scene, full on. This is from Gothic Blimp Works. A very, like, obvious Winsor McKay homage. Kind of nice. Now this is interesting. Women's Wear Daily. I guess some company wanted to be hip. And so they hired him to do this strip every month. I love this monster here. That's a really well-drawn dragon or whatever it is. And look at this crazy ornate lettering here. The sound effect. It's almost looks like a quilt or something. A very ornate quilt. It just seems kind of like just basically Dada surrealism. This is from Fucked Up Funnies, one of his undergrounds. And, oh, I'm sorry, this was actually an insert in the SUNY Binghamton yearbook. They actually published almost like a newspaper-sized color insert. And so this is Fucked Up Funnies. Pretty nice looking stuff. Great color. Pretty amazing that they did that. More East Village Other stuff. This is from Cavalier Magazine, the men's magazine. And this is just like kind of, humor. Kind of making fun of hippies. This could have been in Cracked or Crazy or, or Humor Mag. Now, this is interesting. They were trying to start a Sunday paper, a weekly broadsheet newspaper. I think they made like 6 issues, and it was full of all the great underground artists. So here's this comic strip, Skeeter Grant. And this looks great to me. Look at just beautiful graphic design. The coloring, everything about it. I would love if somebody would reprint these as a giant book. It sounds too amazing to be true that someone said, we're going to have an underground weekly newspaper that's going to be full color strips, just like the old days, just like a Hearst paper or something. Here's another Wits End comic. Here's the Viper. Kind of like a Shadow parody, even though it says it was inspired by the Spirit, which I think it was, but he looked more like the Shadow. You can see he's getting more graphically daring or definitely refined. Here's another strip from Wits End. I believe we looked at this one. Play with your cells and become your own food. The Rough for Short Order Comics. Great underground if you can ever get your hands on that. These are just 3 unpublished drawings from 72. He just drew these on index cards. Wonderful stuff. This is really nice. I love these colors. Another little strip from Gothic Blimp Works. So he definitely is just like kind of goofing. His comics are, they're not heavy like you're not going to find Mouse here until a few years later. Like this guy, and his head got bigger. That's the title of the strip. And we just see this guy walking down the street, and his head gets bigger, and he says, "Yow, my head, it got bigger." This is very silly. This is Ed Head. He drew these for Playboy magazine. He had a relationship with Playboy from like the late 70s to the early 80s. Really nice looking stuff. Just like classic, great cartooning. This could have been, a Hearst strip. Now we see he's starting to experiment with stuff. Formalism. We see, like this one's very interesting. Jack and Jane Rod and Randy. So this couple, they're not a couple yet. They just met. He's kind of flirting with her, and they're just talking like normal people. But their genitalia in this bottom strip are saying very different things. And much less genteel, polite conversation going on. A little strip from the Eric Fromm catalog. This was a rejected Playboy Funnies. It was colored. It was printed in color in Bizarre Sex #8. But this is great. Pluto's Retreat, and we see all the classic comic characters getting down, very much like an old Tijuana Bible. Now look, so now we definitely see him getting more experimental. Look at this great graphic design here, style, very stylized here. About a very funny story, Shaggy Dog story. This is from '79. Now, so he started working at Topps Topps Trading Cards, Topps Bubblegum, whatever they're called. And this shows some of the projects he did. And I guess they were these little hippie joke books that were the size of a trading card. They were like 8 pages. And we see his work for that. They're pretty dumb. I mean, they're selling them to kids, you know. It's not high art here. Here's some little greeting cards that size of bubblegum cards that Topps try to sell. Some roughs for wacky packages, and some fully realized wacky packages. Here's a whole uncut sheet of Series 1 from 1967. Some more roughs, and then Garbage Pail Kids, which he invented in the 80s, along with Mark Newgarden. So around the late 70s, I believe, 77, he published Breakdowns, which was a collection of all of his kind of best, more experimental work. As you can see by the cover, I mean, look at this, just playing around with color, graphic design. I like all these self-portraits of himself from the contents page of Arcade Comics. Here's a comic from the original art from Real Dream, a Hand Job from Arcade. Once again, giving an homage to Winsor McKay, Little Nemo. Here's a little, like, tiny mini comic he did back in the early 70s. 73. Here's his little homage to Rube Goldberg. But it's, like, totally goofy and funny. It's very silly. Here's another little, like, kind of mini comic he made. This one looks great, and this was reprinted in Breakdowns. They turned it into, like, a one-page comic strip. Here's his page 1 of his famous Ace Hole Midget Detective, probably one of the most reprinted underground comics ever. I think I've stumbled across it 3 times already on this channel, just in various places. And this is really him, like, getting really formalistic and experimental. The Malpractice Suite. This was published in Arcade. It's using lots of collage. It's very, very interesting. I mean, I can't really describe the plot too. There's not really much of a plot. But just using inset panels and all this crazy ideas. It's really kind of a hallucinogenic comic. Even though, because of its collage from, like, Mary Worth comics, it looks very, I don't know, staid. This is from 76. And then, I guess, between 78 and 89, this German publisher wanted Art Spiegelman to do the covers for every single one of this guy's books. Let me get his name. French author Boris Vian. And so for decades, and he had no timetable. They were just like, whenever you feel like turning one in, we'll publish a new book. And so Art Spiegelman could just go crazy. These are beautiful. I wish they would publish, like, an art book just showing these. Kind of a shame that, you know, this is a big art book about Art Spiegelman. Like, give us nice big size reproductions of these. I want to see these in full page because, I mean, you're not going to find these. A German book from, like, the late 70s, first edition. These look wonderful, though. These look very good. We continue all the way through here. Still, I don't understand why they didn't like give us a nice big 2-page spread of each of these. Here's one of the originals. An original drawing for the cover. So now we get into the Raw era. This is a strip he had in Raw #1. Once again, Art Spiegelman's totally trying to, reinvent the language of comics, or at least expand on the vocabulary and the methods. Here's the cover. Here's the poster. They actually made a poster, like, on sale. Raw #1. Here's a little strip from Snarf 8. Him and Francois. Very cubist. Here's the Torn Again issue, all the roughs for it, because it was a lot of problems they had to deal with, mechanical problems, making this cover. And this is, I believe, the final version. Oh no, sorry. It's the original art. The logo's not quite done. Some more strips from Raw. This is a little booklet that Francois Molly published through Raw Books in 1979. So Raw Books already existed before the magazine came out. They published maps and a few other little small press things like this. So this is a Cubist-inspired Tijuana Bible, work and turn. God, I want this. Why couldn't they have reprinted this? The whole thing. Maybe this is in breakdowns. Maybe that's why. I gotta get myself breakdowns. I don't own it. God, I love this kind of stuff. That's so great looking to me. This is really nice. Just like in Raw #1, Raw #1 came with a little inset comic. Full color, just like this. Two-Fisted Painters. And they reproduced the whole thing and stuck it in the book. That's just a really nice, added thing to this book. Really cool. Here's the roughs, the color roughs for Two-Fisted Painters. Maybe his second most famous story after Ace Hole. I mean, of course, Mouse is now his most famous story, but short story, I should say. And so now we're getting into the Mouse era. Talking about, I love this little sketch, which I think was published before he even started the serialization of Mouse, a Raw postcard in 1979. This is the rough for the Mouse 2 hardcover. I'm sorry, not the rough, the original art. And we just get page 1 of the original Mouse story from Funny Animals #1, 1972. It was in breakdowns. I guess that's why. The original art, though. And then we see his laborious process of breaking down the whole story of Mouse. I mean, this guy, seemingly very lazy man, who has been riding on his own coattails for like decades. But when he does do a project, I mean, every page had like 16 levels and layers of, like how he broke it down. It's just kind of crazy. But I think that's why Mouse is so good. He wanted to get the narrative purely distilled. He wanted every last bit of information of the story conveyed on the page. He didn't want to waste any space. And so here's more of that, this process. This is really interesting to see. I mean, I think this is worth the price of the book alone. See this kind of cool shit. This is great to see too, though once again, I wish they published it big. These are a portfolio of stone lithographs, kind of based on Mouse or dealing with the subject matter of Mouse. All very beautiful. Here's a lithograph from 1979, also kind of leading up to Mouse. Cats and cat torturing a poor mouse. And then we get into his next project, which was illustrating the narrative poem, The Wild Party. And once again, look at all the work he did. This looks really good. I've never I've read reviews of The Wild Party. I've never owned it. I don't think I've ever even flipped through it. But it is in comics. Apparently, it's just like illustrated. You know, he illustrates the poem. I guess there's panelology, though, so... don't listen to me. Maybe it is comics. But it's kind of a lot of prose and then illustrations. Looks really good. God, I love this stuff. And then the final drawing here. Obviously very inspired by like Lynn Ward and all those guys, Franz Mazzarel. Just trying to harkening back to that style. I love this weird panel. And the party began to reek of sex. Now we get into his New Yorker days. So Art Spiegelman took over as art director of New Yorker, I believe in like 92. And one of his first cover, I believe this is one of his first covers, was a Valentine's Day cover of a Hasidic man kissing like a Jamaican black woman. And this caused an uproar. Black people were offended. Hasidic Jews were very offended. And I remember reading about this at the time and just thinking, you're basically admitting you're racist. For you to write it and say, this is so offensive, you're basically saying to everyone, I'm racist. And I don't think racists should kiss. Because this is just a sweet cover. There's nothing wrong with this if you're not a bigot. You know what I mean? Look at them. Good for them. This couple's in love. They look very much in love. But no, it caused a huge uproar. This is kind of fun because I'm not going to buy the New Yorkers just for the covers. So we get to see a lot of the covers that he did for the New Yorker. And even the rough sketches for them. I wouldn't say it's his best work. It seems like he's definitely catering to, it's not like underground comics anymore. It's definitely like, oh, I'm catering to this very, intellectual, non-comics first audience. But of course, it's Art Spiegelman, so all the design is very nice. Some really nice stuff. And it is interesting how he really, the New Yorker never had controversial covers before. They were all very genteel, cute little scenes of New York City life. And he really, was pressing buttons and kind of amazing. I wouldn't mind just blow up all these. These are great art, great pieces of art. I like how he makes Dick Tracy, he kind of amalgamates Dick Tracy with that New Yorker guy who's on the cover all the time. I don't know his name. Definitely some fun stuff. Man, look at this. Showing every step of the process. That's how much work he puts into this one little cover of just a lady's feet. This is like the fashion issue or something. They don't look good to me. He puts Plastic Man on the cover of the New Yorker. Very classic, old cartoony style. Art Spiegelman, is as much as he's a creator, he's a great historian and lover of comics. So, he's a teacher and kind of proselytizes how great comics are to the world. And so this is his famous 9/11 cover. Almost every graphic design award went to this cover. People said it was the best cover graphic designing of the century. Well, I guess it's a new century, but the past 50 years. It's simply the Twin Towers slightly blacker than the background. You can almost, I don't even know if you can see it on this video. It is a pretty striking image. It's pretty, because, after 9/11, nobody knew how to deal with it. How do you talk about this without seeming, I don't know, like you're taking advantage of it, whatever. But I think he just found the most elegant, respectful way to do it. And so, but then after that, after seeing America's reaction to 9/11, like invading Iraq, which had nothing to do with it, all that shenanigans that went on during Bush and Cheney, then he started working on In the Shadow of No Towers. And this was basically serialized throughout various magazines all across the world. It would appear in a French magazine would publish it. Almost like once a month, it came out with a broadsheet size like old comic strip size, one-page chapter. There's only like 16, and he is using the computer sometimes in this. Sometimes it does look a little too computery. This looks great though. This rough here, this is amazing stuff. This is like Hieronymus Bosch. It's our Crumb. See how so this is the finished page. It's a little too slick for my liking. It's a computer art. This looks like Peter Cooper here. But I think overall, it's a very handsome design. Great logos. Art Spiegelman always has great logos. And just in a humorous, kind of satirical way, he talked about all the issues that 9/11 led to. And then we talk about his children's book, Open Me, I'm a Dog, which we looked at in our very first Academy Roundup episode about a year ago. This is a fucking adorable book, as you can see by the way he draws this dog. God, I love the way he draws dogs. So cute. And I think, oh, sorry about that, guys. I moved the camera. Hopefully it's still in frame here. Let me get that back. That is a huge book, like I said. This is very difficult. So very different style. As you can see, though, it's kind of perfect for children's books. And then him and Francois Mouly did the Little Lit books. So their kids were, they had 2 children. They were getting a little older. They weren't just infants anymore, and they liked to read. So they really got into comics for kids. And in fact, Francois Mouly edits a whole line called Toon Comics that is basically getting really good artists to make children's graphic novels. And of course, Art Spiegelman contributed to each issue. He has a comic in each one. Here's a little poster he did for a book fair. He did a cover for Hornbook. The God, that probably been around for 70 years. The kids magazine. I like this. He's got, Maurice Sendak shout outs. This guy's reading Where the Wild Things Are. This guy's reading Babar. I'm sorry, this guy, Satan and God. Here's another children's book he did, Jack in the Box. Cover for Publishers Weekly, talking about his children's work. And he did this homage to Maurice Sendak in the New York Times. Really, I guess when Maurice Sendak died. Really nails it. This is some nice stuff. So this is a comic he did for The New Yorker in 1993. Wait, that's before Maurice Sendak died. Yeah, way before. And I love this. It's a jam comic. They basically, one day, Art Spiegelman hung out with Maurice Sendak, and I think they walked through Sendak's Connecticut estate. And basically, Art Spiegelman kind of transcribed it. And Maurice Sendak, I believe, drew himself here. Yes, he did. And, they're just kibitzing about children and childhood. But man, this is some nice stuff. Getting to see these two titans. That's Where the Wild Things Are in the background. Here's another strip he did for The New Yorker. So he didn't just do covers for The New Yorker, as you can see. It's really nice. Art Spiegelman's such a proselytizer for sequential narrative, if you will, that he's always trying to get comics into places they've never been before. This is just a cute, family humor type comic. It's pretty fun, though. Here's another little one for The New Yorker, 1997. And this he did for The New Yorker in 2000, right after, this is actually before Charles Schultz died. But I guess he heard that Charles Schultz was retiring, so Art Spiegelman was moved to create this. I think a week after this, 4 days after this came out, he was dead. And this is just him ruminating on Peanuts and how when he was younger, Art Spiegelman didn't really care. Peanuts is just there. It's just something that's always been there. You gotta take it for granted. But now in his older years, he realizes just how amazing it is. To be honest, I'm still one of the last holdouts. Everyone loves Peanuts. I still think they're just okay. I don't want to own all those books, even though Fantagraphics does a nice job of it. I don't really feel the need. but that's probably my loss. So just doing various different styles, just really fun stuff. It's also fun seeing Art Spiegelman trying to draw like Schultz. I love this. He's talking about how Schultz, it's not his fault, but he started the whole simplification of art and comics. Just his style lent to the whole idea of, hey, we can shrink comics now. The art's so simple, keep shrinking them. So that's why comics look like this today. Dilbert, Kathy, and we even see South Park. So he basically says these are the bastard children of Peanuts, the guys who can't even draw at all. But they could look to Charles Schultz and be like, see, it's nice and simple. It's okay. And then the basic of this is that Charles Schultz called up Spiegelman like in the late 90s and said, hey, we should hang out sometime, which is so weird. And of course, as they talk about stuff, you realize they're very different people. Charles Schultz is kind of like, that's an interesting way to look at things. Like, he definitely knows that Art Spiegelman and him aren't like soul brothers or anything, but he likes it seems like he likes his company, and they have some enlightening conversation. Another New Yorker strip he did was this homage to Kurtzman. Look at this great opening panel. It just totally captures that early Mad feel. All this chicken fat in the background. He's homaging or referencing himself. There's the New Yorker cover we just talked about. And then he's actually reproducing Kurtzman art. Here's a Hey Look page. Mickey wrote in from Mad. And I guess Harvey Kurtzman invited Art Spiegelman to come to his class at School of Visual Arts, talk about his career. And Art Spiegelman didn't even tell him he was going to do this. He brought all these slides about Harvey Kurtzman, and he told the class, he's like, you guys, I'm not here to talk about me. I don't even know if you know your teacher is just a fucking genius, and I'm going to tell you all about him. Because some of these kids probably didn't even know who Harvey Kurtzman was. They just wanted a degree so they could become whatever, graphic designers or whatever. They didn't really understand that Harvey Kurtzman was a titan in this industry. And so it's very moving. Harvey Kurtzman's kind of moved by it. He's like, wow, you did a great job. It was nice to see all my work. And they hug at the end. And you could tell that Art Spiegelman is just loves the guy. He owes so much to him. And this was after he died, 1993. Here's another New Yorker strip. This is just kind of a journalism piece about the New York Public Library's photo library. Kind of interesting. Talking about the whole history of it. Here's a strip he did for New Yorker in 92 about being in Rostock, which, sorry guys, I think is in Poland. Maybe it's Germany. And just how weird it is to be a Jew in Rostock on Yom Kippur. And, talking about there's still Nazis in Germany. It is Germany. There's still neo-Nazis running around painting swastikas. And kind of very interesting strip. Just an autobio strip. And so now we got another New Yorker strip. Very political one. Really, it's called Mood Indigo. Oi, we got them Inauguration Day blues again. And I like the coloring here, all this really nice deep blue. This is a little political commentary. And then, let's see if we can do this without getting out of frame. See, this is the book spares no expense doing cool fold-outs like this. So this is from the St. Louis Refugee Ship Blues. And this is in the Washington Post op-ed page. So this is about that during World War II, the Jewish refugees from Europe, well, from Germany mostly, every country refused them, including America. They were just like, and they basically had to go back to Germany, go back to Europe, and who knows how many of them died in concentration camps just because America was like, nah, keep out. And he talks about how one political cartoonist was on the side of the Angels, and most people were just like, yeah, we don't want them. But this guy was very sympathetic. Very interesting historical story. And here's another one. That's God, I'm gonna rip this book doing this. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, so I think that's in frame. No kidding, kids, remember childhood? Well, forget it. And once again, we see lots of, I love this, the ages of man. Infant, menace, kid, prepubescent, acerbi, adolescence, adult, boomer, sentient, senescent, and putrescent. And it's the crypt keeper. I love that. And it's just talking about how childhood is a relatively new invention. Basically the 20th century. Really interesting little kind of editorial or whatever. I like this, how he has all these different styles and lots of comic homages in here. Oh, I fucked up. Here you go, guys. Here's the bottom. Here's a little strip at the bottom, a little autobiography story about Art Spiegelman and his daughter. And, you know, he's just kind of shaking his head like, oh, kids are so different now than we were. We'll fold this in. It's a really nice book. And this is the the second edition of Breakdowns in 2008. Basically, what is that, 30 years later? And he added this huge story. Portrait of the artist as a young, and then ampersand, whatever, you know, curse word in comic book language. And just I gotta get this. Because, I mean, I think it's like a 20-page story he added to the original Breakdowns. And it looks pretty damn good, too. So here's a lot of examples from that story. Cover for the Virginia Quarterly Review. That's a really nice cover. Reminds me of like David B. or something. This is his work for the New York Trilogy by Paul Auster. God, he's such a good graphic designer. These are really sharp. Look at these. Looks so good. There's the collected edition. More Paul Auster books he did the covers for. This one I think I still have, or maybe I sold it when I was desperate. I wish I didn't. It's a novel by Tom DeHaven called Derby Dugan's Depression Funnies. And it's the first in a trilogy all about comics history. It's a really good book. Tom DeHaven's excellent writer. And Art Spiegelman does the cover and even does a one-page comic strip, which I believe we'll see shortly. New York Times Book Review. Look at this. Great graphic design. It's almost like those Russian posters from like the 30s. So this is some of his prints, you know, doing stone lithographs, limited edition prints. This is unpublished. This amazingly cool drawing. Look how weird this is. Just two completely jarring styles right next to each other. Another unpublished sketch. This is a Harper's Magazine cover, accompanying one of his articles about offensive caricatures in comics. Some album covers he did. It looks very much like that Jim Flora guy. I think that's obvious. He's trying to ape that or pay homage. Book cover. Oh, I need some water, guys. I hope you're not bored that I'm pointing out everything in here. But this is a really fun, fascinating book. I used to have this. He did the cover of this Spike Jones CD. More CD covers. Posters for art festivals. He did a cover for Discover magazine of Albert Einstein. Kind of interesting. Here's a sketchbook page. The metamorphosis. And this human guy wakes up and sees everyone else's roaches. But I really want to get those sketchbooks. Drawn and Quarterly published, McSweeney's published like 3 chapbooks almost. 3 little interconnected reproductions of Art Spiegelman's sketchbooks. I really want these now. Be a Nose, they're called. Still need water, sorry. So we're just seeing more sketchbook stuff. This stuff looks great to me. More sketchbook stuff. It's beautifully colored. I mean, I guess they did publish it, but it's kind of weird for a guy who publishes so little that he would put this much work into something that's not going to be published. Why not offer this to some comic anthology? Say, hey, you want a new Art Spiegelman cover? Anyone, I would totally publish that. Anyone would. This stuff looks really fun. All this stuff looks great to me. So this is interesting. He worked with this this musician, Philip Johnston. They made this thing called Drawn to Death, a 3-panel opera. Art Spiegelman did all the art for it, all the set design, but the thing has never been produced. They just keep doing workshops about it, but it's never actually been performed as of 2013. But really, look at this. This looks amazing to me. Really nice stuff. So we actually see photos, dancers, animated drawings on the back, on the wall. I would definitely like to see this. And so the New York Times invited Art Spiegelman to make a comic strip about it. Like, tell us about this weird collaboration you're doing. And here it is. I guess there's a photo of it. And this is a really kind of interesting project he did. His alma mater, the high school he went to, he's a big, famous guy. They asked him to do an art piece for the school, like a mural. And he decided to make a stained glass thing. Basically, because he's such a comic nerd, he's like, yeah, the first sequential narrative was stained glass windows. I mean, when I went to Catholic church as a kid, you saw the whole Stations of the Cross. It was a comic strip, just divided by 10 feet of wall in between each one. But you could follow Christ sequentially as he made it up Mount Calvary or whatever it's called. So you get to see this. This is really nice too, because unless you went to New York City, you would never see this. So they reproduced the whole thing in chunks. And it's very clever. It's talking about all the attributes of this visual arts high school: illustration, cartooning, fashion, drawing, and painting. And then he shows the artists of yesterday, a little kid scribbling in a book with his comic books around him and his Etch-a-Sketch, and the artists of tomorrow. This is very Chris Ware to me. And we see this guy projecting the same crappy drawing, the little kid's drawing, but like using some kind of holographic, crayon in his head. Kind of fun stuff. Here we can see how it looks all laid out. Very small, though. And then he has a almost like a tribute to Mondrian. He has this famous alumni from yesterday. And he has all these, Alex Toth went to the school, Calvin Klein, and Tony Bennett. But a lot of cartoonists went there. And Violet Barclay, early female comic book writer. He makes these kind of funny sketches of them, caricatures. And then he says, the artists of tomorrow. And these are pretty funny. It's like 2912, Eve Ut, narrative graphistication. This one's an architect, a meat sculptor, a cyborganist, a nuclear wastrel, a flea marketer. These are all pretty fucking funny, even though the drawing's a little repetitive. It's just the same looking bug creature colored differently. So he really thought this through. There's just a lot of shit to look at on this stained glass wall. Here's some details from it. So he was very thrilled to be able to do that, for his old high school, which kind of saved him because he would have drowned in the normal academic, high school. All he wanted to do was draw. So here's a project he did called Lead Pipe Sunday, which it was weird. They just some print club of Philadelphia and Quarter Press, they're called. They basically made a double-sided print the size of like an old comic strip page, from the glory days of comic strips. And here's some roughs for it. It's a really nice illustration. And now we get to see it. So let's see. Is this the... Yeah, so I'll look at this one first. Let's see if I can get this in the whole thing in. I love this drawing. I mean, this beautiful, serious kind of illustration. The bastard offspring of art and commerce murder their parents and go off on a Sunday outing. And we see all these classic comic strip characters, all lovingly drawn by Art Spiegelman. And then on the back is kind of this... Well, this is just kind of some abstract kind of whatever, playing around. Almost like modern art. But this is great. So I guess this was the cover. I should have showed you this first. Dead Dick, and this is weird postmodern parody of Dick Tracy. I'll just read a little to give you a flavor of it. Look at this. Looks like modern art. The caption says, Crimson Scream, Liquid Death. A gun. He's got a gun. Christ Stabber's textbook. Dead, dead, dead. This is even better than that wrist palette. It's just a thing that points to Dick Tracy's wrist, and it says, wrist. Laughter shatters over shoulders, measles, dead. Cream spinach taxi cab, never, never stipple if you can hatch. Even better, use black. This is great stuff. And I believe this now is the second one. So should I think that's how this works. I don't know. So if you remember, guys, the end papers, that was the rough sketch for this. A little shout out to Happy Hooligan, Dick Tracy, Philip Goustone. I love these kind of rough-hewn sculptures of all, like Popeye, kind of at a tilt here. Really fun stuff. Another kind of, modern art, graphic design-y back cover, I believe. And then this is next thing, which I think is part of Lead Pipe Sunday. But this was also in that Derby Dugan book by Tom DeHaven, because I owned that for a while. And this was actually printed in color, one of the first few pages. So this just gives you an example of this fake comic strip that Tom DeHaven made up. I wish I could read a whole book of these. Very much a homage to Little Orphan Annie. Here's the unused back cover for Lead Pipe Sunday number 2, instead of this thing. Here's another stone lithograph he did. Man, for a guy who can't draw, he did some good stuff. Oh, I love this. First draft of the Meta Mouse book. Once again, Art Spiegelman it seems like he just keeps cannibalizing his own career. Every 10 years, there's some new, CD-ROM of Mouse, or a book of Mouse with a DVD. I'm just making a new graphic novel. He just keeps re-releasing it with different covers. And so now we get a whole essay by Robert Storr, Making Mouse. And this is pretty damn interesting. Look at all these great preliminary roughs. I love this. With these colors. It almost looks like neon. Just using different colored pens. This is just priceless stuff to me. And that's it. Except for the chronology here. And so we get more examples of his very early stuff. 1961, a little drawing he did for the school newspaper. One of his early fanzines again. East Village Other cover. A very Ed Big Daddy Roth inspired drawing. Probably for the college paper. Some of his underground, some of the books he did. And this is interesting. Mid-70s, art for an endless gag strip designed for the wings of top short-lived super baloney bubblegum wrappers. So look at this. I love this. They published the whole thing. It just keeps going. Just this endless strip. It even continues on the next page. They're all really corny jokes. But some of them are kind of funny. They're actually kind of, some of these jokes I never heard. But they're all 8-year-old jokes, I lost my breath. With your breath, be thankful. How do you stop a charging elephant? Take away his credit card. Like that kind of stuff. Here's the covers of those maps they did. Well, oh yeah, so I guess they continued doing these all the way up to the 90s, at least. Very sharp looking. This, God, just him and Francois are such good designers. A little rubber stamp book they did, published. This is just I love this. It's just a birthday card he did for his daughter. And I guess she liked Richie Rich a lot because he just stuck Richie Rich in at the end. And apparently his son liked Batman a lot because he made this birthday card for his son Dash. And it's just like, and Batman shows up with a present for Dash, for Super Dash. There's the cover for Drawn to Death, that still never produced kind of opera. And it's that famous Golden Age cover of the cartoonist being killed by his own creations. Kind of apropos. Just so many good examples of all this great shit he's worked on. The bag for the Strand, I used to have this t-shirt. Art Spiegelman did the logo design, well, the art for the Strand, that famous bookstore. Here's those sketchbooks that McSweeney's published. God, I already forgot what it was. A banana? No, I can't remember. Photos. Very handsome couple. Some notes. Selected essays. Kind of his bibliography, I should say. And it says on the Kornberg of Steinberg and Death, which I don't know if this is a homage to Saul Steinberg. It doesn't necessarily look like his art, but I really like this. Is the fun cartooniness of that. It's like Mariscal or something, or is that the guy from the early Raws? Just really fun, like almost childlike art. And the end papers is another rough for that Lead Pipe Sunday drawing. So here's the back cover with, God, just it's such a well-designed book. The fonts, literally everything about it. It's beautiful. Though I do wish it was expanded and they gave a lot of these things a full-page treatment. It's kind of a tease. I'd love to have all those New Yorker covers. And that's the least of what I want. Those German book covers of that one novelist. I want to see those giant, or at least half page so you can really see the art. So there you go, guys. Comics or Comics by Art Spiegelman. And I hope you guys like looking at this. I had a great time rereading this. It's just such good, like, eye candy. This stuff is just very pleasing to my eyes. And I hope Art Spiegelman... Oh, at the end of this, by the way, he actually says something like, oh, yeah, in the timeline, he says, yeah, wrapping up some things so I can get back to being an underground cartoonist, which I don't think's ever happened since 2013, unless he's been doing something I don't know about. So I kind of figured that was hyperbole, or because I just think Art Spiegelman's a lazy old guy who's just like, comics are work. They're very hard work. And if you can just kind of be the editor at the New Yorker and just be like, yeah, let's run this cover. It's a lot easier, especially when you're an old man. And so I don't mean to disparage someone I don't even know, but this is just what it seems like Art Spiegelman has just been dicking around for 30 years. Putting out a few things here and there. I know this shows a lot of stuff he did, but mostly it's just single illustrations. Nothing substantial since Mouse. I mean, The Wild Party, his little children's books, I guess there's something there. But I mean, I still love Mouse a lot. I don't think it's overrated at all. It's rated exactly where it should be. It's amazing. And probably he doesn't have another graphic novel that good in him. Not many people do even have a graphic novel that good in him. One. So who knows? I'll stop rambling and let you guys go. But I hope you liked looking at this, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.